How is everybody doing? Strength Chat episode 113, and today I have got a very special guest for you. I've worked with this guy, I've known him for quite a long time. Today I'm joined by a strength and conditioning coach with over 6 years' experience, and he's currently the head of youth of strength and conditioning at Huddersfield Giants. Today I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, that is Adam Megretton. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I've never been described like that before. That's the first.
There you go. That's how you're going to have to be introduced now from every time you do a session. What's been happening in your world? What's been going on?
It's been a weird time. Very weird time. I think it's a weird time for everybody in it. But yeah, obviously kind of been stopped from doing my job the last few weeks. I'm doing my job remotely, which I never thought I'd have to do. But yeah, learning, adapting.
Well, it's a new challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have a lot of the because I know I chatted just before, so obviously they started recording. How are you doing in terms of coaching? Then are they sending you footage or?
It's more just, and you've seen loads of people put it on Twitter, but it's more we're sending stuff out to them. Any individual stuff I need to send out, like any injured players that we've got that I'm in charge of at the minute, they've got something different to what the whole sport's got, and then it's just getting updates from the players. I'd like to think, and again, loads of stuff on Twitter, but if you've got a good enough culture about the club or the team, or you've taught them properly, I'd like to think you don't need to get photos from them and proof that they're training and this and that. To be honest, as long as I know what they've got and I know they can make use of it, my thing is put it on them. If they don't do what they need to do when they get back, it'll cost them more than it'll cost.
I suppose at that level as well, players in Super League, they need to be doing that when they're at the very top level. Maybe if it was, I don't know, maybe a little bit of an amateur level or something like that. But when it's their actual job, I think they're still getting paid by the club, if you like. So obviously, having worked with you and known you for quite a long time now, for everyone listening who might not know your background or know how you got into S&C, do you just want to give a little bit of a background to yourself?
Yeah, so I've been an S&C since I came out of university, really. So 21. Makes me feel old. Before that, I played myself, played a little bit of rugby. I wasn't very good, but played a little bit, tried to play. Went to university once I decided that this is what I wanted to do, and then came straight back into it. I was kind of lucky that I played, which helped me kind of get where I am now. So I went to Wakefield, went back to Wakefield, worked with their scholarship, worked with their academy, did the typical, everyone has their own story of getting into S&C and how they didn't get paid and how they were paid peanuts and this and that. So I won't bore you with that. And then eventually just got the a call through mutual. So kind of mutual people got in touch with each other, and then it got put to me that there was a job going at Huddersfield, and again in typical S&C fashion, in a weird way, end up there. In between that, obviously trained at Primal or coached at Primal, just kind of learning the trade of coaching general population, which is I think it's underrated, and you'll hear all the older people say just whatever you do as a younger person coach. That's what I did, and it was probably the best thing I ever did. Even though I knew I never wanted to go down that route long term, I knew that it would help me long term with what I'm doing now.
How do you think that has helped you? Because obviously you did a couple of classes, couple of PTs down at Primal. How do you think that helped you when you came into coaching? Because obviously, I remember when you've come down to the gym and we've chatted, you started off with the academy, then you were looking after rehab players at Huddersfield. You've done quite a few different things. How do you think that's helped you as a coach?
I think it's just being comfortable. Like I remember the first class I ever did at Primal, and before this I did a few classes at PT Health as well in the summer when I was just covering for my brother on holiday or something like that. And it's just good being comfortable talking to people in front of a large group. That's literally more than anything. It's knowing how to cue people at first. Your cues and the way you coach people is in big drab sentences that they don't understand and you probably don't understand. And then it slowly becomes little small cues to change someone or the way someone is doing something or performing an exercise. And it's good to have that coming into a team environment. And I think that combined with the fact that I played and I know the environment already, it was a nice transition to make.
Yeah, I suppose as well, because like chatted on a couple of other podcasts and spoken with other people. So obviously we both know Mr. Matt Cook. Neither, I'd probably say I'm probably the loudest, if you like. So can shout a little bit more, but like we can all speak in front of a group, but it doesn't mean to say that you have to be that rah coach, not really saying anything. Sometimes saying like what you said there, a short sentence or a short cue can have maybe a bigger impact than just stood there being, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. I think as a coach, when you're saying things, you've got to actually, there's got to be a purpose behind it. Because obviously you've done quite a few or had a few different roles with Huddersfield. How long have you been at Huddersfield, and what sort of different roles have you been doing?
So this is my fourth season. I've been there three and a half years, just coming up to 3.5 years, which is crazy. I came in as a new guy and kind of came in right at the last minute. I think his pre-season started in 2016, and I was just straight into the academy and scholarship, which is at the time was under 19s and 15s and 16s, and an assistant with the first team. So I had 2 SNCs above me, and it was just pretty much in the gym, help them in the gym with the first team. And for me, it was just get to know the first team players. And pretty much the coaching, it was get to know them and build a relationship with some of them, because in the future, that's who you're going to be dealing with. Yeah. And then with the academy, it was an academy team. It was pretty poor, like not physically, just in terms of culturally, it was pretty poor. So new coach came in, I came in as an S&C, and we had 2 years together where we turned that around a little bit. We got in the top 4 in the second year, which was good. Then just became an assistant with the first team September 2018, October 2018. So there was me and one other S&C with a head of performance above us, and then I hired an academy guy below me part-time. And that was when, within 4 months, I took over the rehab. So it we went off for Christmas, came back in, we were short of a physio. I'd never done rehab before, but I had the least full-on role in terms of coaching, because the head S&C did most of the programming. I did the programming for the young players in the first team. So right, you're going to take the rehab. So within 2 weeks over Christmas, I had to learn as much as I could, and then just learn on the fly. Rehab, which was interesting. Probably learnt more in a 8-month span than I ever have. And I always knew that long term it'd be a blessing in disguise, doing that. But yeah, so I did that for last year, and then managed to get back into what I really wanted to do, which was just to be in charge of a team and coach a team. And I like the youth side of things. So when they said to me, you can pretty much be in charge of everything below the first team, and it's yours, and do what you want with it, then I'll do what you want with it. But pretty much that was a perfect scenario for me. I'm kind of probably at the age when you're 23, 24, I think every S&C wants to be this first team person and work with the first team and be able to say they work with the first team, but I don't really care about that. Once you're in it, you realise that the first team are no different to the academy is no different to the scholarship. You've got the reserves in between. Everyone's the same. They're all just rugby players, and you just coach them. So it's not too much different. Obviously, what you give them and the content of what you give them and how you deliver it might change a little bit with the age group that you're working with. But yeah, no, I'm in a good situation at the minute.
Oh, cool. And I know, obviously, because you went and did was it a massage therapy? Not massage therapy course, sports therapy course, or
me and Matt were massage therapists for a week. Yeah, that was just a tick in the box, something to have on the side. Everyone says they need to have some kind of side hustle, something on the that they need to, especially during times like this when everyone's a bit arms in the air, don't know what's going on. It's good to have something on the side to fall back on if worst case scenario that was to happen. So yeah.
Just another string to your bow adding stuff like this, because I suppose especially with with the work that you're doing, if you can communicate to the physios a little bit better and that sort of stuff, you can put a better program in place. Obviously, you said there you've worked with Scholars Academy in the first team, and you said it's just how you deliver it to a different group in terms of the training and what you want to get out of what they're actually doing in their training. Is there any big differences between the Scholars Academy and first team, or how do you go about changing how they're training?
Yeah, there is massive differences. There's massive differences, but then to probably the untrained person, there's no differences. Yeah. So in terms of, does everyone squat, hinge, push, pull, crawl, rotate, do all these things? Yeah, you'll see them doing very similar exercises or the same exercises, but the context of which they're doing them in is completely different. So like our scholarship, 2 sessions a week, they're all still amateur players. They're not contracted or paid or anything like that. It's pretty much train wheels for 2 years, and if you're good enough, we'll sign you. And for them, my goal, for them when they come in as a 14-year-old to when they leave as a 16-year-old or go up as a 16-year-old, is have they completed all the basic lifts, and have they, I wouldn't say mastered them at all, but are they competent in all the basic lifts? So can they front squat, back squat, deadlift, RDL? Right at the end of 16s, can they get to a position of being able to do a basic Olympic lift like a hang clean or a power clean? We've gone back to overhead pressing, so can they power jerk? Can they push jerk? Can they land well? Can they jump well? Can they do that in all 3 planes of motion? And then in terms of our basics on the field, which is probably what I focus on more than anything in the last year, is can they accelerate pretty well? Can they, how's their max velocity running look? And what is their change direction like in terms of basic closed skills? Then once they get to the 18s, it becomes a bit more full on. So 16, 17, 18-year-old, all of a sudden they go to 4 sessions a week, 5 sessions a week, 4 gym sessions a week. And it becomes then, I need to prepare these. I've got a 2-year window to prepare them as best as possible to go into the first team. It's not about winning in the academy. I think that if you do, probably sounds philosophical again, but if you stick to the process and you don't think about the winning and you just think about making them a little bit better every day and every week and every year, the winning comes on the side of it. Because I think a lot of people around are short-minded.
Yeah.
So I think it's their shortcomings that you can just take advantage of. But
you've got to think, for me, that from a rugby fan, if you like. I mean, I know I've done a little bit, and I've only learned from sort of yourself, from what you've spoken about in how you've worked with Wakefield and Huddersfield. The Scholars and the academy are feeders. You want those people coming through to the first team. You don't just want loads of success at academy and then you never see those players ever again.
No, I think it's. I'm happier with. I'm more satisfied with the amount of young players we've got in our first team at the minute, the house squad numbers, compared to the fact that we win 15 games out of 25 or something like that. I don't really care too much about that. And that's what matters. But yeah, the academy is just a little bit more. I think of all the system of training I use, and the same as everybody will use, is that you think of a pyramid and you think of general physical training at the bottom, and it gets more intense as you go up. We kind of just stick to the lower end of the pyramid. It's pretty much, let's build as big a base as possible of general physical capacities, whether that be basic strength, basic power, general power, general. Obviously, at that age, everyone wants hypertrophy, but I think it comes as people grow up. It happens naturally. And a general aerobic base from which to build off. And then when they get into the first team, they are ready for the pre-season. They are ready for all of this. And if you've done a job, if pretty much when they get to the first team, they move well. They don't have too many mechanical flaws, and they're fit enough to be able to withstand the intensity of the first team, which is the most important thing. And more than anything, that you're developing a good person to go into the first team. And that's what I'd like to think we've done all right with. I'm not sure yet. I think that'll come to fruition in the next 2 or 3 years when those young first teamers turn into vital, important first teamers that it's up to them to win those games and make the club look good. That it'll tell them. but just making sure they have good habits when they go up there. I might be happy with someone's squat. Or someone might be of a satisfactory squat or a deadlift or a clean or something like that. But then we've got Chris, the head S&C at the club, who's in the first team, is miles better than me at seeing things, or his coaching eye in the gym. So they get up to him, and he can just little tweaks here and there that I wouldn't have seen. And it kind of just puts a little bit of icing on the cake.
With that, is the program, because obviously you said there you want them to squat, RDL, some of the Olympic lifts. Is the program similar throughout the whole with each part of the club then? Because obviously you said there about the culture and having good habits. Is the program similar throughout the each age grade, if you like, from Scholars Academy or first team, like with the same movements, or are they completely different programs as you go through?
Very, very similar. Very similar. I'd say that we get along really well as an S&C department. So Ollie, as the head of performance, came in a year ago and brought in all his sort of robust running stuff. So we've managed to, in terms of what he's been able to teach me and Chris on the field, our teams run a lot better, and we do a lot of the same stuff in terms of our sort of Bosch, John Pryor, gym-based exercises to get people better on the field. And then just in terms of our basic lifts, Chris is a very traditional S&C in terms of squatting and lifting heavy, and if you move well in the gym, it will transfer to the field. For example, this pre-season, we both went down the same route of let's try out a split squat before a back squat. So the traditional way of programming, what you kind of go by in the book is let's do our fastest stuff first, let's do our power stuff next. So let's do our jumps, then let's do our Olympic lifts, then let's squat, and then let's do some accessories. Let's split squat, let's lateral lunge, let's do our RDL or our hamstring eccentric or calf eccentric. But what the first team did and what I followed a little bit was let's barbell split squat them. We're not going to kill them on a barbell split squat, but they're going to split squat with some good weight. And maybe that's even RDL them. This might be their 2A and 2B. And then let's back squat them afterwards. And it kind of, what Chris found is that it prepped them really well for the back squat. So there weren't players getting to the back squat and saying they were done in and they couldn't push, because they did push and they could push. But it seemed to prep them really well for that lift, which was an interesting one. And the big thing that everyone's going away from is let's go to unilateral stuff. Sport happens unilaterally, or the vast majority of it does, especially rugby league. So I'm probably similar. I don't, like at the minute we're in season, I've got a couple of our first year academy players back squatting, and that's because they are first years that aren't playing big minutes or very little minutes, and they still need to develop general physical qualities. But our second years who are playing 80 minutes or 60 minutes and have done it for 4 years, I might be, split squatting them or trap bar deadlifting them. I want to take any residual fatigue out of the gym to make sure that when they're on the field, they're fresh and ready to play. But at the same time, this in season isn't and this is what I think everyone likes to think, is it's not let's just manage them through the season and let's maintain what we've got. An academy season isn't intense enough to do that. You need to keep improving, and there should be no reason that you don't still improve in the gym. So
that's fair enough. We chatted a little bit before. I know you've gone down to other clubs. Don't need to mention other clubs or anything like that. But obviously, seeing how other clubs do it, and you mentioned obviously you do quite a lot of the running type of things and experimenting. Do you think that's where sometimes other clubs, or when people are sort of getting involved in sport, that you just want them, right, let's just get them strong. Let's just load them up and get them strong, and it doesn't have much carryover. Do you think that's where some clubs go wrong, or where people sort of think, well, if they're strong, that'll be fine anyway?
I think so. But I also, I think every club follows the trend of S&C, or every S&C department follows the trend of S&C. Trend in S&C at the minute is let's be track and field. Like the last 5 years, it's been let's be track and field coaches. We're all track and field coaches now, and we're all of a sudden got a coaching eye like a track and field coach, and I'm one of them. But knowing I'm doing it, if that makes sense, I'm kind of I've kind of got the bonus of very good people that I know, such as Matt, that I can video someone running, do a lot of running drills and actually know what I'm looking for. Like the drills that I do haven't changed over 4 years. I straight leg bound them, just started introducing dribbles. We've switched for 18 months or 12 months. We don't A skip anymore. We don't B skip. I'm doing an acceleration session. 3 years ago, I would power skip them. I would broad jump. But but I didn't know what I was looking for. I thought I knew what I was looking for or were looking at. And now I have a little bit of a better idea what I'm looking at. But then if you go see someone like Jonas down south who Matt knows, or you watch, at the minute I'm watching Chris Corfist or Carl Dietz or Tony Holler, and you watch them and you go, oh, I can't swear, but you go, I know absolutely nothing and I don't know what I'm looking at. I have a physio who used to be at our club that's down south, and I'll send him videos of people running, someone that might be bringing back from various injuries. And I'll watch them run and I'll go, I think he looks all right. And then I'll send it to him and he'll say, it's terrible. What's happening here? What's happening there? And that's when you're like, I still don't know anything yet. Yeah. But yeah, the running based stuff is the most fun stuff to do. I think that's why too many people get caught up in the gym. The gym is the gym. I like the gym, and obviously it's a lot of fun in there, but it's probably more important not more important, but it's really underrated what you do on the field, I think.
Yeah. I think that's got to be a bigger carryover, especially for team sports, like rugby and football and that sort of stuff. Because I know for me, like obviously I compete in powerlifting, so the gym stuff, I love all that. Whereas sometimes where I'm a little bit out of my depth is how to get people faster and a little bit more explosive. But for me, that's a good challenge, because if someone, I can't remember whether it was you or someone else that said it to me, it's like, what's going to make more of an impact if you're just strong, if you can just manhandle people in a game, or if you can make a line break, if you can get around someone. Like obviously that's going to have more of a carryover and be more beneficial within a game rather than just being, right, I'm just super strong. With that, so you just going back to a couple of other points that you mentioned with how you've worked through Scholars Academy and first team, and they've got to tick a certain amount of boxes. Would you ever compromise if someone's really good at the field sort of sessions, they're really quick, they can step around people, but in the gym they really struggle? Would you ever make a compromise that, let's maybe push them up to the academy, or from the academy to the first team? Would you ever compromise on any of that, or what are your thoughts on that?
People are individual, and you have players. I think this is where the gym stuff, the traditional look of the gym has changed, or the outlook of it has changed. I just listened to a seminar yesterday from Cal Dietz talking about how people have different strengths and weaknesses, and just working on the weaknesses. And we've done an injustice to athletes in the last few years, or however many years, because we put everyone in this traditional periodization program, and it might not suit everybody. It might suit the middle, it might suit the middle 30%, but the outside 30 and the other outside 30, they might need something completely different. So you might have, like, I've got players in the academy. I've got a second year player that loves training that much that I have to pull him back all the time in terms of everything. I know he's strong enough, and I already know that. And again, the research that and the stuff that people like Matt Ray, who's just gone to Alabama, has put out, is interesting. And I think you can see it without realizing that you're seeing it. Like he's 80 kilos and he could squat around about 170, 180. So he's got a 2 times body weight squat. I know that he will not get any faster if he just sticks to general gym-based training. Yeah. I then watch him run and see where does he need to work on, what is his limiting factor when he runs. Is it ankle stiffness? Is it stiffness in the knee, something in the hip? Is it, I don't know, is it the way he runs? Is it his running technique? Does he need, I'm not sure, is it just a case of he needs a power-based program now? But for him, he's individualized in that strength isn't the main goal. even though he hates that because he thinks that lifting hard every day is the way forward. I've had to give him books and go away and read and send him podcasts to try and get him to understand that it's not about pushing yourself every day. And then in terms of programming for him, he'll get, again, this is the difference between scholarship academy, that second year academy that's a key player ends up being on something different because chances are if they're a key player, it probably means they've done everything right for 4 years. So they're at the stage now where I can get a little bit more specific and individualized, and he moves on to something completely different. So his thing might be, let's focus on the ankle, let's lift, but let's do it with minimal volume, and let's move fast rather than let's do 5/5s at 80%, 85%, and let's go heavy. Let's grind out the last 2 or 3 reps on the last set, and then we'll go out onto the field and we'll just repeat the cycle. We might get a tiny bit better over a course of a year, but we probably won't get any better. Whereas what he probably needs is, like off the top of my head for him, he needs some ankle stiffness. He needs some more speed-based plyos. And I think that you'd see more improvements just from adding a few things in with regards to that than you would just carrying on squatting him and split squatting him, rear elevate squatting him, and yeah.
I think sometimes, from what you've said there, which I think is a really good point, is that sometimes you can have one strength that is, more dominant than everything else. Whereas actually, yes, strong, that's really good, but you want to bring up those other factors. How I'd sort of relate it, what was ticking over through my head is that my squat and deadlift are all right, but my bench is absolutely shocking, which is always going to bring my performance down. You've seen me bench, so you know how bad it is. Whereas, having worked on that, like the player that you said who's really strong, just bringing up sort of the speed side of things, or tapping into that strength a little bit more so you can use it will be a lot better. Just on them, because obviously what sort of like drip fed through the podcast all the time is like culture and habit. Do you find that sort of from the academy below, you're actually trying to educate them a little bit more, and maybe in the first team you're just sort of like, right, we just need to get them ready for the game? Is it different coaching those different types of group and how they respond to you a little bit more?
Yeah. The best thing I ever did was 2 years ago when we got in the top 4 that year, and we had a good team. And it's interesting, I'll talk about the disparity between the team then and the team now, but that team, the best thing I did was when pre-season started, I did a presentation with them all about S&C. So it was just a basic presentation of, this is why we lift heavy, this is why we do power training, this is the research behind it. For example, a back squat increases counter movement jump. Counter movement jump is a good predictor of playing status in rugby league. NRL players can jump higher than New South Wales Cup players, who can jump higher than local A grade players. So if you can jump higher, more chance of you playing at that higher grade. What gets you better at jumping higher? Lifting does. So then that all of a sudden, that connection, that why, people never give a why, or they don't do it often enough. So that was the best thing I ever did. And my whole thing, like this year, what I said to players, you should be, and this is really, again, cliche, but you should become just a facilitator. Yes, you'll coach them and you'll talk to them and you'll advise them and you're developing them. But if I didn't walk in the gym, they should be able to do a low-based body warm-up, because we're in January and we've done it since October and it doesn't change that much. And they should have paid attention enough and learned enough that they would know how to do that. I can sometimes, if depending on the day, I can just go in and say, I'm not warming you up today. This is what you got to do. Go do it, and then get on with lifting. Obviously, that's not how it is every day, but you should be at that stage. Obviously, you shouldn't leave them in the gym. And with the academy, they'll do something stupid every so often. But you're at a stage where they know what they're doing. And the best, I can't remember whoever said it. It might have been someone like Buddy Morris. I'm not sure. It might have been Dan Baker. If you see someone else, if you see someone in your team, so in our team, especially when under 19s, I remember seeing, and he was only a second year, but I remember seeing a second year, this was 2 or 3 years ago, coaching a first year. First year, done, I can't remember what it was. Must have done something. Second year saw it and it wasn't anything complicated. It might have been like a riff elevate split squat, and he told him to put his top of his foot on the bench instead of his toes. But I was like, right, that tells me that I'm on the right path. If I've got players that have been in the system a little bit longer, coaching players that are new to or haven't been in the system as long, I'm on the right path as such. The biggest thing we did 2-3 years ago was me and the coach of the academy at the time is we pretty much got rid of, like you talked about, culture. We made it tough and we got rid of the people that were bringing the team down, and it was addition by subtraction, which is one thing that I think is massive. Like culture wins over everything. Don't matter what I talk about here. If you've got a poor culture in your team, you won't win. If you've got a lot of people in your team that are just coming to get paid and go home, then there's no point. You failed already. So we got rid of some. They weren't bad people. They just, you could tell they weren't there to be a successful rugby player. They were there to say that they were a rugby player and then go home and do whatever they wanted to do. So we changed that, and I think it's interesting that, like, that from 2 years ago, I would say, and this is what me developing as I see, we had a better team, we had better individuals. I think we had an academy team that has 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 7 of, like, our starting 17 are in the first team now. Right. 7 or 8 of them. Probably 8 actually. So we had a really good team, and we were coached really well. And then what I did as an S&C was they were fit and they were pretty strong. Like I mean, it's hard to go into detail, but if you saw our first team and you saw our backline that we have in our first team, or some of the younger players at the back end of the first team, we used to play in the academy, and it was unfair. Like, it was literally unfair because, and it wasn't to do with me, they were all just genetic and physical freaks. Yeah. But then it's interesting that the academy this year, because I'm 2 or 3 years better, I almost now feel like I was a hindrance to them back then because I didn't know enough. Even though I did a pretty good job with them, I'm now so much better as an S&C that the guys that I'm coaching now are getting so much more. Yeah. They're moving better. They are, I won't say stronger as such, but they move better in the gym. We're doing better things in the gym. We're doing better things on the field. So they're better physically prepared to play. But then is this team as talented as that team? Not a chance. But could we might do, for all I know, we might be better. It's just interesting how it all, even in a 2 or 3 year span, it changes.
Yeah, I think with an environment like that, I think it's changing all the time. I know when you came down to Primal once before that everything was up in the air in terms of coaches and S&Cs changing. So with that environment, I think you've got to learn as you go as well. With the because obviously, you know, watching and chatting to you and seeing what happens in environments like this, with the players that you maybe let go, is that regardless of whether they're really good in the gym or, you know, a really good player on the pitch? Do you think it's more important, obviously, with the culture, and it's got to fit? They've got to fit within that culture, because one of the things that is, I think the book's called Barcelona Way, and obviously that chats about sort of you know, how Pep Guardiola creates that culture, and you either become part of a culture or you create a culture. So do you reckon that is, you know, regardless of what the gym program is or anything like that, you need to get that culture set, even if they are a good athlete or a good player?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and I've read the Barcelona Way. It's a very good book. And every book like that says the same things, and it's stick to the process. It's stick to your standards and your principles, and if people don't come with you, then tell them to find another club. And in rugby league, it's a lot hard to do that because of the size of the talent pool and the size and the amount of players playing it. But like, I follow the NFL, and you can see that that's apparent massively. And the players that we let go, it's probably more a rugby decision more than anything. Right. I think that anyone that gets to our second year academy, or what used to be third year academy, and they don't quite get to the first team, it's never because they're not a bad person. It's never because they're a bad person. Yeah. If they've got to that stage, they're probably a good person. It literally then comes down to, are they good enough to get in our top 35-man squad? If they're not, then they might play reserves, which we've just started up again this year. And some of ours did do that, where we liked them, good players, they've got potential to play Super League. They're not quite there yet. We can't fit them in our first team squad, so they'll play reserves. And again, the big overarching thing that I have is, if they're good enough, they'll make it. Yeah. Like, everyone says this and that, and people will find reasons that they didn't make it, or people around them didn't make it, or if you are good enough and you do enough. There's players that I've seen that have gone put 110% into everything, lived the life, and then it's come to it and haven't quite been good enough. But there's also players I know that still know that don't try that hard, don't know how to try hard, but they're that physically gifted and talented that they can make it. They're not bad people. They just don't get that side of things yet. Whereas other people know that they need to work their asses off to get there, and then still might not get there. The thing that is overriding more than anything is culture wins over everything, and then the sport is the most important thing. I think that too many S&Cs, especially with social media as well, too many S&Cs think that they're more important than what they are, which sounds really bad, and it sounds like I'm trying to put everyone out of a job. But the sport wins, and it's not because I put 10 kilos on someone's back squat that they got into the first team or anything like that. Like, you don't take credit for people. Everyone that got into our first team from our academy should have got there without me.
Yeah.
Because they're good enough rugby players. You're just developing them physically to make them a little bit better, or a little bit more physically prepared to play.
It just goes to show, like what you said, because I can't remember whether it might have been Mike Boyle that put something out there. And okay, Mike Boyle's quite a big name, and there's quite a lot of people that put loads and loads of stuff out there, shout the loudest, and shout about what athletes they work with. Whereas, especially chatting to you, with the guys that you work with and some of the guys that you follow, okay, they're not really massive names. They don't have a million followers on Instagram or whatever, but the work that they're putting out, because you want to have a look at, right, who have they coached? What teams have they actually worked with?
Yeah.
What results are they getting? It might be that there's only one paper or one post that they see. Jonas Dodu, who's been on the podcast, I've never actually heard of him before chatting with Matt, chatting with yourself, and a couple of other coaches as well, that you start digging and you start looking at, and actually it's like, oh wow, like they get really good results with their athletes. Whereas sometimes, like, even maybe it comes through experience, because I know for myself, when you're first starting out, you're like, oh my God, look at these, like I daren't say out to this coach. Whereas now, as you get a bit older and get a bit more experience, it's a little bit like you start questioning what other coaches are doing, and think, well, actually that's not very good at all, or you're just copying what other people are doing.
Yeah.
So just on a little bit of a tangent on that as well, obviously with the NFL and the NRL, obviously over in Australia, and you're on about the talent pool, is it just because they have more people and that's why they're producing better athletes, or do they do something different to what maybe rugby league is like over in the UK?
Yeah, it's because they have more people more than anything. It's we're working, and this sounds disrespectful, but I think everyone knows it, that the NFL over there is the pinnacle, and there's that many kids that want to play in the NFL that the talent pool is massive. That you coach in Division 1 college over there, and you're probably working with better athletes than we do in a professional rugby league team in England. Like, right. That's just fact of the matter, because there's that many over there. I like the quote someone said. I can't remember who. This isn't to do with S&C, but someone said the heavyweight champion of the world is in the NFL somewhere, and it's probably true. Like any good American athlete that's big, either plays basketball or plays in the NFL, they don't grow up to want to be a boxer anymore. Like the days of this, and I'm a big boxing fan, but the days of the 70s and 90s and people growing up wanting to be Joe Louis and people growing up wanting to be Muhammad Ali's gone. Everyone now wants to be Von Miller or Tom Brady or people like that. So yeah, it's that, like in the NRL, I know, and everyone talks about it. And when you hear what other clubs are doing from an S&C point of view, they go, oh, they're doing covering so much distance a week, or they're doing so much high speed running, or their session was this big. But it's because they know that they've got a talent pool that's big enough that their average age of their squad is probably younger as well. It's survival of the fit, a lot more survival of the fittest over there.
Right.
Probably without them knowing it and doing it on purpose, but they can push them a lot harder because overall as a talent group, they are better and they can withstand a little bit more. Yeah. Whereas Super League, we don't have a big enough talent pool, and we have more older players that can still play Super League, and as a result, you can't then just go crazy in the way that you train them. You've got to manage them through a season, and that's not disrespectful to them. It's the way it is. They'll know that as well. And then in the NFL, like the average lifespan or career of someone in the NFL is like 2 years, and I'm guessing that's probably as a practice squad player or something like that. Like the top end of the NFL is so small compared to the amount of people that dip in and out of it. You see people sign $50 million contracts, 5-year contracts, and within 18 months they get released because a new coach might come in, or they don't fit in with the culture, or all of a sudden that 20 million a year that they were getting isn't of value, and they'll just go, we'll get rid of you, we'll find a new young person. If you're over the age of 30 in the NFL, you're very lucky to still be there.
Yeah, it is interesting because, like, I was listening to a podcast, and the question was, if what would happen if America took like rugby union, rugby league seriously? And the guy that was chatting, I can't remember his name, but he's an English guy, but he's gone over there. I think he's got something to do with their rugby union.
Right.
And people, like what you said, people want to go and do basketball or American football because they offer scholarships, paid for scholarships. Yep. So yes, if they're a really good athlete, but then they also get that education at the end of it. So even if they don't get signed by by an NFL club, they've still got that degree and they can still go off and form a career. Now, why people don't do, because it's like women's football, they offer scholarships as well. Yeah. So what he was saying was, if rugby league or rugby union if they ever get offered like a scholarship, rugby union and rugby league will absolutely blow up because they've got, it's like a sleeping giant, if you like. The amount of athletes that they'll have and the team that they could put together would be absolutely ridiculous, because the size of the country and the market they can tap into, because there was a stat, wasn't there, that so much percentage don't actually get, or only a small percentage actually get into the NFL, and then everything below that, it's like, where do they go? What happens to these athletes? I find that interesting.
Yeah, they don't have, like, if I know, if you don't make it in rugby league, you might go play for your local amateur club or something like that, whereas they don't seem to have that. I mean, they've just started up the XFL, which is like the league below the NFL, but yeah, pretty much unless you make it professional, you'll stop playing, which is weird.
So going back, I know that was a little bit of a tangent. I'm pretty used to going off on tangents on that. But just going back to, so you spoke about the academy player, and he's hot and he's already strong. For you, working with the academy players and working with the first team, a question that sort of some of the weights that some of these people put up are really, really heavy, but obviously they're not powerlifters, they're not weightlifters. How strong is strong enough for you when you're working with these rugby players? Is there a certain point that you need to get to? Because obviously we spoke about right now, that guy that you were working with, you're going to do a little bit more power or a little bit more speed work. How strong do you want those to be? Because some people, like, I don't know why this is just coming to my head. There was a Warrington player, and he put he's a big guy. He put some absolute shots on at the start of the season. Like, he's a strong guy, but is that enough? Or for some people who maybe are a little bit more skillful, do you want them to come up a little bit more? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Here's my thoughts. Not have enough data and be able to take enough data to be able to give you a solid answer, but I can only go off what other people are saying. And like I said, Matt Ray at the moment, all his research is, once you get to 1.7 times body weight in a squat, or a squat, for example, is an easy example, it becomes not so much performance enhancing, it becomes more injury risk reduction or physical preparation. They still need to lift heavy once they get to that stage. You don't just never lift heavy again, but are you doing it to get them faster? Probably not. Yeah, I'd say between 1.5 and 2 times body weight on something like a squat. I think just the basic stuff. So like a 1.5 times body weight bench. If you're 80 kilos, if you can bench 120, then you're not doing bad for example. Should it be a priority once you get there? Probably not. You're probably strong enough that we can focus on something else that's probably going to get you better on the field. And obviously the same for like a trap bar deadlift. You're probably looking at around 2.5 times body weight. Yeah, the one thing that stands out, and for however many years I've done it now, is there isn't a correlation between the strongest player being the best player. Nowhere, not a chance. More often than not, the strongest player is probably the most unfit. Right. The guy who benches the most in your team, is probably the worst at running. And that's been true. Like I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, whoever's had the biggest bench at our club, yeah, they can bench 170, 180, but can they give us 20 minutes on the field, 25 minutes in the middle? That's the key. Like the whole thing the coaches say is, if you can get him fit, then, and it's like, well, he's strong, but that is because of what he's good at. The best quote I ever heard, going off on a tangent again, is from one of our coaches, and we have to deal with players that don't like conditioning and stuff like that. But he always says that fat, unfit players love to swim. So if they get any kind of conditioning tool, they will swim. And just players will always do what they're good at. Yeah. Apart from the best players. But no, it doesn't. I think what correlates more than anything, which is our NSC's thing, is, like, I know the people that have moved up, that have moved the best in the gym, so that can perform the Olympic lifts really well, can squat really well, and just move well in the gym. They move well on the field, and they're also, if you looked at injury histories, get injured the least out of everybody. Yeah. So it's quite not funny, but the people who don't like training that much and the people who don't train hard, this is probably my first thing, that you look at the injury history, and their injury history will be bigger. The ones who don't appreciate the gym, don't rate it, don't think they need it that much, or on the field don't think they need the running mechanics stuff and that. But then you look at the injury history and you go, well, if you don't think it's that important, why is, when I look at your injury history when you're 28, let's say, for example, you've got so many soft tissue injuries in the past. Why do you think that is? Oh, well, I don't really have an answer. And it's like, well, there's a reason we do what we do. And the reason you should be trying to be the best person you can be. But that's a little pet hate of mine.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you know, you want, with the players that you want the best players on the field for as long as you can. You know, and that's, especially, you know, with first team, that's how you're going to end up winning games. If you're always injured, you know, there's no point. Well, there's no point. But you're always going to be, that team, that culture is always going to be a little bit of a hindrance. Whereas, you know, if you're not a big fan of the gym and you're playing, but you're maybe not fit enough, or there's a likelihood of injury, that's not beneficial for the club. It is more about, you know, getting those minutes out. With that, then, if you're you've ticked all the boxes in terms of strength, how do you then turn that into beneficial on the pitch? So is that through, would you look at doing more sort of power exercises, or like what we've touched on before about that guy who's already strong? Would the emphasis be just on running mechanics and making them faster?
I think the one thing that I've done recently, and I've gone away from it, is don't try recreate what happens on the field in the gym too much. Like, yes, we need to get them good at getting to an A position, and we need to teach them the A position, and you can do that with the boss drills. You can do that with your sort of explosive step ups, your double step up, triple step up that you see people doing now, using aquabags as disruption. Sort of the clean to step up type stuff. You can be specific in the gym to a degree, but in the gym, develop their physical qualities, their general physical qualities, get them better at producing maximal force into the floor. So lift heavy, get them better at rate of force production. So being able to lift a sub-maximal weight fast, and then get better at producing force as fast as possible through plyometrics. And then in the gym as well, which is coming into the gym-based stuff massively. Again, listening to Alex Natera, listening to Chris Corfist, is get them better in the positions in specific positions, if that makes sense. So if they are lacking ankle stiffness, put them in a position during running, or that replicates running, and put them under some stress. So Alex Natira's isometrics, an ISO hold, an ISO push with heel slightly off the floor, replicating toe off, and then seeing how that transfers to running. And then when you're on the field, it's about getting them better at running. Whereas before, for me and for most people, it was, and I think people are still like this, and again, because of what's happening, everyone all of a sudden likes to think they're a track and field coach, which we're not. But yeah, let's A skip them, let's B skip them, let's do this and that. Whereas now it's let's switch, let's dribble, let's scissor, let's skip, let's bound. This is all just for linear stuff, but that is more important. Like, do all that stuff on the field. Don't try to replicate running in the gym. Is my thing, but I'm still, like, it's hard for me to describe because I'm still trying to get to grips with it and trying to figure it out in my head. Yeah, that's probably why. Like, I'm not big on social media, but I don't really put anything down because I'm nowhere near the point where I can start to talk about it because I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah, I mean, you'll never stop figuring it out, but yeah, there's a lot of things going on in my head constantly that I don't feel like I have a right to write down and say this is the way to do stuff because it changes all the time.
That's the thing, though, with with how things are changing. Obviously, the whole thing of, and I can't remember who put it out there, is that all the coaches that are stood behind the camera filming, saying how good this is, whereas actually, from your point of view, you're actually there coaching, looking for these things and focusing on that sort of outcome of it. Because I know a couple of people that you've mentioned there, I've actually looked at, and there's all their blogs that will put out there, and this is an example. But I do think, yeah, from a coach's point of view, you need to be sort of in the trenches, if you like, learning as you're going, and that's how you'll get better. So obviously, quite a lot of things covered there, which I found really interesting. I always think it's good picking your brains. For everyone listening, after everything that we've just chatted through there, and this is the really important bit now, what would be your words of wisdom or take-home points from everything that we've chatted through there? No pressure.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's probably more just in a very unemotional way. It's every day is a chance to get a little bit better. So for me as an S&C, it's I'm trying to be the best I can be as an S&C. So I look at people that are better than me and smarter than me and just almost take what I think would work and do that. And I think that's what everyone should be doing in life. Like, as if you're one of our professional rugby players, or if you're a professional rugby player and you're not looking at the best people at your craft and learning from it and doing everything that they do, or taking the best, then there's something wrong. As an S&C, do a bit of everything, but overall, culture wins over everything. A better person that can play is better than someone who can squat 300 kilos.
Yeah, absolutely. A good way to finish off, and I like that about trying to learn from smarter people. There's that phrase, isn't there? If you're the smartest person in the room, go into a different room. You want to be challenged on these things, and that's how people get better. Anyone that thinks that for either myself or Adam sat here saying that we have all the answers, there's a couple of times where people will send me stuff, and I'll 100% say, I don't know, but I'll go and find out that answer. So I do think it is important that you need to keep learning all the time. Obviously, you mentioned that you're not really active on social media. But for everyone listening who from this podcast might have any more questions about all the stuff that we chatted about, is there anywhere where people can get in touch with you to ask you any questions? Or
well, I have Twitter, and I use it for work in terms of I steal everything from everybody who's good at the job. If I ever tweet about anything, no, but my Twitter is just my full name, Adam Megretton.
Oh, spot on. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. A lot of things covered on there. I found it really interesting. I hope everyone enjoyed that as much as I did. Thanks again, Adam, for taking the time to chat with me. I'm sure I'll be catching up with you soon. Thanks for everyone listening, and I will see you all next week.